Do you ever wonder how much THC or cannabis to take? How much is the right amount? How do I even start using cannabis? Today we're going to talk about just right dosing of medical cannabis. I'm Tim Pickett. I take care of thousands of patients who use medical cannabis, and I teach people how to use it. Today we're going to talk about my experience and how to start using medical cannabis. Remember, this isn't medical advice or really any other advice. Be sure to talk to your provider, talk to your pharmacist before you start any medication. And remember that cannabis is still federally illegal, so obey the laws wherever you're at. We're going to start at the very beginning of a 4 or 5 day introduction to cannabis. This is for people who are brand new to medical marijuana or haven't had a good experience with it and trying to figure out whether it even works for them. Even before you start dosing cannabis, the first thing I recommend to my patients is give yourself permission to use it. You're going to get a little high, you're going to feel a little stoned, and to do this right, you're going to have to feel that psychoactivity and use it. You don't always have to be high, and you don't have to smoke it, but you do have to be okay with taking that first dose and the sensation that comes along with it. Remember that no one ever died of a cannabis overdose. You're using it for a good purpose. Have a friend or trusted family member around for support during those first few sessions. And be honest about your use. You deserve to feel better. So let's start on day 1. Start at about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, early enough in the day that you have time to experience the effects without sleeping through the therapy, but late enough in the day that if you take too much, you didn't ruin the whole day, which definitely can happen. Try tincture oil or cutting a 10 milligram gummy into quarters. That's a good place to start. Start low and go slow, only taking 1 dose on day 1. Place that quarter of a dropper full or that quarter of a 10 milligram gummy, the quarter of a dropper full under your tongue, hold it there for 20 or 30 seconds before you swallow it, and then wait about 2 hours to feel the full effects. Start keeping track of your experience in a journal. Write down what you took, how much you took. After 2 hours, write down how you feel. What's your breathing like? How anxious are you? That type of thing. Keep enough information in your journal that it becomes useful, but not so much that it keeps you from writing in the journal every session. Now on to day 2. If you felt something day 1, great, we're going to take the same dose. If you're anxious about the dose, you can back off. And if you didn't feel anything on day 1, you can increase your dose by about 50%. So about 1/3 of a gummy or 1/3 of a dropper full of that tincture. Again, this is only about 3 or 4 milligrams of THC, still a very low dose for most people. And that's it. Remember to write in your journal about 2 hours after your dose. At this point, the endocannabinoid receptors are starting to wake up. So you might find day 3 feels stronger with the same dose as days 1 or 2. If you do feel stronger, it's okay, you can back off. But if you felt nothing, you again can increase your dose on day 3 by about 50%. So we're up to about half a dropper full or half a gummy. Remember, that's about 4 or 5 milligrams of THC, still a pretty low dose for most experienced cannabis users. Sometimes when you get to days 3 and 4, that dose becomes really much stronger because the endocannabinoid receptors are waking up. And sometimes it's like whambo. This is really strong. Don't worry, your endocannabinoid system is waking up and smelling the flower. Day 4 is more of the same. At this point, you can start to understand how long these effects last and what the dosing feels like. You can decide, today I might want to even take 2 doses. I take 1 at 2 or 3 o'clock and another dose 6 or 8 hours later when the effects wear off. And that's okay. You're starting to understand what it feels like and get the hang of the psychoactivity. Hopefully you found yourself letting go a little bit of those symptoms and that pain. During this learning phase, Try not to use cannabis for any real therapy. You're just learning how much to take to get that head change, or how much is a strong or therapeutic dose. Once you figure out where those two levels are, then you can move to learning how to use cannabis for actual dosing and therapy, and use that psychoactivity to disassociate from those symptoms. And by the way, congratulations. You've started using cannabis. You know what it feels like. You've taken the first step to finding your just right dose. Cannabis isn't going to feel like ibuprofen or Tylenol or opioids. It's a little different. And in my next video, I'll talk about using 3 different dosing levels, which can improve the dosing, and that's called layering.